He wouldn't tell them everything at once, because then you would be like, you're nuts, I'm not giving up my wife.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 cult conspiracy theories that turned out to be true.
He used to say, when I go, I'll be the most hated man on the planet.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most bizarre conspiracy theories about well-known cults and their existence that ended up being proven correct. Did the aliens or a divine power hide any entries from our list? Let us know in the comments below. Synanon. Synanon began as a drug treatment center founded by Charles Diederich in 1958.
I'm Big Brother, I'm Big Daddy, I'm all kinds of things.
The rehabilitation program soon morphed into an alternative community that practiced a truth-telling game, in which members were ridiculed as a form of therapy. This game quickly became a tool for Diederich to brainwash his members into slave labor and unusual practices like shaving their heads and undergoing mass sterilizations. It didn't take long for rumors from ex-members to filter out to the general public. The world at large learned about the cult when Diederich and some of his members were implicated in the attempted murder of one of their critics.
That came to a head when attorney Paul Morantz was almost killed by a rattlesnake placed in his mailbox. Chuck Diederich and two other members were convicted of conspiracy to commit murder.
Facing a long list of crimes, including tax fraud, Synanon shut its doors in 1991. Om Shinrikyo. In 1987, Shoko Asahara founded a yoga and meditation movement out of his one-bedroom Tokyo apartment. It grew so rapidly that it was registered as an official religion 2 years later. Om Shinrikyo became known as a religion for the elite, attracting graduates from Japan's top universities.
The people I talked to who were members of Om invariably said he was, they felt a real charismatic power, and they all said he could be soft, warm, and compassionate.
Any warnings about its true nature as a doomsday cult were ignored by the police. That is, until a series of terrorist attacks with sarin gas focused the world's attention. In 1995, they carried out another onslaught, this time on 5 trains in the Tokyo subway.
At 8 a.m., each man pierces the plastic bags with the umbrella tip, releasing a colorless liquid.
Thousands were injured and 13 people died. As a result, Asahara and 12 of his disciples were executed by the Japanese government in 2018. Rajneesh Cult and Rajneeshpuram.
We had no idea that we were going to run into the largest poisoning case in the history of the United States, to the largest wiretapping case, and the largest immigration fraud.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh was an Indian mystic who gained a large following in the 1970s.
But man is very empty and meaningless. Without spirituality, there will be no center.
Rajneesh and his followers settled in the U.S. in 1981 on a large ranch in Wasco County, Oregon. The compound grew into an incorporated city named Rajneeshpuram, which frequently clashed with neighboring towns. To the local Oregonian community, it seemingly became clear that this was a cult. In 1984, a radical sect of Rajneeshpuram carried out the largest bioterror attack in American history when they poisoned local restaurants and gave more than 700 people salmonella.
And then suddenly there were so many people. We had people laying on the floor. We had people leaning up against the wall. There were people in the lobby.
It was part of a failed plot to take over the city government. 2 officials of the group were convicted on charges related to the poisoning, while Rajneesh was eventually deported.
We are here in Oregon to stay at whatever the cost. If that means some blood is spilled, then this is the price we are prepared to pay.
Order of the Solar Temple. The Order of the Solar Temple began as a New Age spiritual movement in 1984 and amassed followers from Canada, Switzerland, and France. The order transformed quickly into a doomsday cult, raking in members and cash with their dark new philosophy.
I actually believed that I was superior to most other people on this planet, that I had been chosen.
According to the group's founders, Joseph DiMambro and Luc Jaurès, the world was set to end sometime in the mid-90s. As a result, many of the members took their own lives or were killed during that period. In October 1994, police found bodies of the group's followers in burnt buildings in Switzerland, France, and Canada. In all, between September 1994 and March 1997, 74 members of the cult lost their lives.
This was not a simple happening, but an apocalypse, the plan for which had been developed over a very long time.
Los Narcosatánicos. To the outside world, Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo was just another face in the crowd of the Mexican Gulf Cartel. The underworld, however, knew the truth. Constanzo and his followers were a dangerous group. In 1989, the world discovered that the Cuban-American crime lord led an occultic gang. Dubbed Los Narcosatánicos by the media, Constanzo and his followers killed at least 16 people, including one American student as part of a ritual sacrifice.
Authorities say that the devil worship and human sacrifice practiced here may be a brand of voodoo or black magic that comes from the Caribbean and Cuba.
Many of their bodies were discovered on his ranch. With the authorities on their tail, the gang fled to Mexico City, where Constanzo instructed one of his followers to shoot him. The rest of his group were arrested and sent to prison. The Manson family. Citizens of Los Angeles were aware of the Manson family and dismissed them as hippies or a Hollywood curiosity.
Go to work, go home, go shopping, go to work, go home, go shopping. And it was really a drag. And then Charlie blows in, and he just changed everything, and I dropped it all.
Their true nature was, however, much more insidious. Celebrities like Angela Lansbury had warned of the dangers of the group after their children were almost recruited, but were seemingly ignored. By the late 1960s, Charles Manson had almost 100 followers, forcing amphetamines and LSD on most of them.
Well, we believed that we were cleansing ourselves spiritually. The goal was to achieve an inner harmony.
Hippie culture papered over a Christian doomsday cult preparing for an apocalyptic race war. Manson radicalized his members into carrying out crimes ranging from vandalism to assault. Their spree culminated in 1969 with a series of murders, including the horrific killing of actress Sharon Tate. NXIVM. NXIVM was a self-help organization that ultimately turned into a cult run by co-founder Keith Raniere.
To Vanguard.
Thank you, Vanguard. NXIVM quickly gained popularity, building its strength to around 700 members at one point.
As a group, collectively, we can buy in bulk and we can save a lot of money.
Realizing their cult-like nature, some of those individuals left the group and reported their practices to investigative journalists. It would take a 2017 article by the New York Times to publicly reveal that NXIVM's self-help brand was a front for racketeering and sex trafficking.
Honestly, her eyes looked dead. It was very much that feeling of a sociopath.
Raniere and former Smallville actress Allison Mack enslaved female members and even branded some of them with his initials. The women were beaten and forced to provide compromat to ensure their compliance. Both were sentenced to prison, although Mack was released in 2023. The Branch Davidians. The Branch Davidians began as an extremist sect of Seventh-day Adventism in the 1950s. By the early 1990s, after years of living below the radar, they finally drew the attention of the FBI. The feds had received intel suggesting that they were a doomsday cult.
The prophets were all given a vision of our time, brethren. Do you understand that?
David Koresh, their messiah, was stockpiling illegal weapons and holding underage wives at his compound in Waco, Texas. On February 28, 1993, ATF agents raided the compound at Waco, but were met with heavy resistance.
I recall stepping out of the truck. Almost immediately, I start hearing pops. Pop, pop, pop.
They were never able to determine who really shot that first shot.
This kicked off a 51-day siege that ended in the ranch being engulfed in flames. Nearly 80 people died. The Waco siege gave birth to an extremist movement that inspired both the Oklahoma City bombing and the modern-day American militia. The People's Temple. Jim Jones founded the People's Temple in Indiana in 1954. It began as a progressive church. Jones supported civil rights and operated homes for the elderly and institutions for mental health treatment. The People's Temple was thought to be close to an egalitarian utopia. Rumors about its true nature soon began to circulate. In 1974, hoping to escape media scrutiny, Jones moved his community to Jonestown, a compound in Guyana.
And he took in a lot of people who were disenfranchised, and they loved him, and he mesmerized them.
Former members warned authorities that Jones was preparing a mass death. In 1978, Congressman Leo Ryan led a delegation with journalists and staffers to Jonestown. He and 3 of his delegates were murdered on the orders of Jones, who then fed a poison drink to his followers. Over 900 people were killed. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Heaven's Gate. Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles founded a new church in 1974. Unlike other churches, Heaven's Gate believed that they could get to paradise by hitching a ride on an alien spacecraft. In 1975, they convinced about 20 others to give up all their possessions, abandon their families, and disappear.
People in the world who thought that I had completely lost my marbles. They're not right.
Walter Cronkite covered the disappearance on CBS Evening News, giving the country a dire warning. The group vanished from thought and memory for years.
Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us.
They lived off the grid, traveling the country and camping. In March 1997, they made headlines for the first time in 22 years. Timed to coincide with the appearance of the Hale-Bopp comet, the group assembled in a house in San Diego where they all ended their own lives. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from Watch Mojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.